Hello, hello, ladies, and happy Friday. I hope you are all doing well. I'm just getting myself situated here. Today, the topic of today's free workshop is how to get started with low carb nutrition. And in this live workshop, I'm going to be sharing a couple of different things. Number one, I'm going to talk about why I think low carb nutrition works so well for women over 35, especially if you are, if you have like poor energy, if you're struggling with your weight, if you've got some like health conditions that are starting to pop up. Those are the kind of like the top three reasons that I really think low carb is the way to go for women 35 plus. And I'm also going to show you how to get started. And this is going to be really practical because I'm going to show you how to build a low carb meal to ensure that you're getting the nutrients that your body needs, to ensure that you're getting enough calories, to ensure that you're choosing the right foods. So stay tuned because we're going to get into that. And I have a little PowerPoint presentation for you guys today as well. If you are joining me on Facebook, I see there's already 8 of you participating. I'm on Zoom, so I have to kind of look at my phone at the same time. I'm going to post right now the link to my Zoom room inside, like underneath the Facebook Live. If you want to come and join me here so that you can ask me questions at the end, feel free to do so, although I will also be checking on Facebook. As you guys know, I always ask you to do this. If you are joining me live, please put a live in the comments right now and say hello. Tell me where you're joining me from. And if you are catching this on a replay, then please put a replay in the comments when you get to it and still tell me where you're from. The reason I ask you to do this is because this tells Facebook to share this video with more women in the community. So if you are getting some benefit from these workshops, I ask in return that you just give me one little comment to let Facebook know that these workshops are appreciated. And we are going to dive in. I have a special little, I've got a little, what do you call it? Like, oh my gosh, PowerPoint for you guys today. So let's just go ahead and find that. And we are going to get started. And I'm going to say, how do I make it go to the slide? Let's see here, slideshow from beginning. Hopefully this works and then I can go back and forth. Okay, perfect. All right, so hopefully you guys can all see that. So what we're going to do today is, like I said, we're talking about how to get started with lower carb nutrition. This is not keto. This is lower carb nutrition. So, and the reason I wanted to do lower carb is because I know that not everybody wants to do keto, and that's totally fine. You don't have to do keto to get the benefits of low carb. And so that's why I'm calling it low carb or lower carb. And we're going to be jumping into something that I call the SMART carb formula. And this is just a really simple system that will help you build meals so that you don't have to worry about tracking your macros or counting your calories or doing anything like that. So my goals for you for this workshop is, number one, I want to show you why I believe that lower carb nutrition can help women with their energy levels, with their overall health, and just controlling their weight, because weight gain is part of perimenopause and menopause. And this approach to nutrition can really help to manage that. And then, of course, I want to show you how to create a well-formulated low-carb approach, because you can do this the right way or you can do it the wrong way. And I want to show you how to do it the right way. All right. So if you are brand new around here and this is your first workshop, hello, my name is Haley. I am a nutrition coach and I work specifically with women over the age of 35 and teaching women really, my passion is teaching women what is happening to their body. How are their hormones changing? How is their metabolism changing? how do they need to be more strategic about their nutrition and their lifestyle within that context? And I'm a really, really big fan of teaching women that you do not need to go on crash diets. In fact, they will only do more harm than good. So those are my passions. That's what I believe in. I have been studying nutrition and women's health for over 10 years now. And I'm continually learning. I'm currently taking 2 courses, one on stress management and sleep, and the other one is a functional nutrition course going really in depth into hormones and metabolism. So you will be learning all about that as I go through this course. I'm super excited. I get to present my toughest case studies of women who are really struggling with weight loss resistance and get the support of these amazing experts in that field. So if you think you should be one of my case studies, I'm going to choose one woman from this group. I'm mainly choosing my clients, but I'm going to choose one woman from this group. So I'll post something about that. Okay, let's dive in here. So I just want to give you a little bit of a background. Again, some of you may have heard this story. I'm sorry if it's boring, but I want women to understand like where I come from. And, you know, when I was like in my early 30s, I ate like garbage and I ate a lot of processed foods and I ate low fat. And I thought that as long as it was low fat, it didn't matter what I ate. And I ate a lot of sugar and a lot of processed foods. And by my mid 30s, I was a little bit of a hot mess. I had definitely, I think, like irritable bowel syndrome. I had insomnia. I had adrenal fatigue. I had infertility. Had all these issues going on, and that's where my personal journey with nutrition began, because I started to realize that the foods that I ate had an impact on how I felt. And therefore I had to start changing that, because when I went to see my doctors, all they were giving me is like, here's some pills to help you with your sleep. And, oh, we're so sorry, miscarriages happen all the time. And it wasn't enough for me. And I just really wanted to start exploring. And that led me into paleo, and then eventually into keto. And then from there now into, I guess, what I would call lower carb, low carb, keto-ish, whatever you want to call it. I don't really have a name for it. But it's constantly evolving. So basically I want you guys to understand that it doesn't matter where you're at right now. You have a lot of power over your body. And in my opinion, it starts with what's on your plate as well as your lifestyle habits. But today we're going to be talking more about nutrition. So what we're going to cover is we're going to quickly go over sort of like the top metabolic changes that happen in women over 35. And we're going to talk about the number 1 hormone that women need to address in order to improve their energy and improve their health and manage their weight. We're going to go into, like I said, how to create a well-formulated low carb approach using the Smart Carb formula. And then I'm going to talk about this new challenge that I've put together for the group. It's a free challenge. And it's like, basically, it's like, give me 7 days. Give me 7 days to show you the magic of low carb nutrition. And the reason this workshop and this challenge exists is because a couple of the new women in were like, well, oh my God, like there's so much information. I don't even know how to get started. And ultimately with this group, my goal is really to help as many of you as possible. And as you come into this group, I want to give you some kind of like instant win. I want to teach you something that you can start working on, because I know that it can be overwhelming and there's lots of stuff to learn. And so I want to give you something where I believe every woman can start. So that's sort of like the point of today's little episode or workshop or whatever you want to call it. And I'm just checking on Facebook at the same time here and saying who's here today. Carrie, Ramona, Michelle, Donna, Alice, Cassie, Angela, Lula. Hello. Thank you for joining me. Okay, so I'm not going to go into detail here because I want to kind of keep this a little bit more practical. But if you are new to the group and you haven't heard me talk about perimenopause and menopause and hormones and metabolism, I just want to give you like a super quick overview of some of the changes that start to happen as we move into our like late 30s, early 40s, and then into perimenopause and menopause. So number 1, our sex hormones are changing, right? Progesterone is actually the first one to change. And it's a little known, like a lot of women probably don't even know what it is. It's a sex hormone. It's a very important one. And progesterone starts to drop. It's one of the first ones that starts to drop. The impact this has on your metabolism is that it protects you against the stress hormone cortisol. So the less progesterone you have, the more prone you are to stress, the more cortisol you produce. And cortisol is one of those hormones that is responsible for belly fat. Okay, it's like a belly fat hormone. The other sex hormone that starts to decline is estrogen. This one starts to go crazy before it declines, but it does have a massive impact on our metabolism because it protects us against insulin resistance, which we're going to be talking a little bit more about shortly. But if I have to put it in super plain terms, when you have less estrogen, you cannot tolerate carbohydrates as well as you used to, and that can cause belly fat as well, or just general weight gain. Another thing to understand about this whole perimenopause transition is that for a lot of women, this is a time of estrogen dominance, because again, progesterone starts to tank before estrogen. And when we're talking about estrogen dominance, we're talking about estrogen in relation to progesterone. This can also cause weight gain as well as all kinds of other things like super bad PMS and heavy periods and tender boobs and mood swings and all kinds of fun things. Perimenopause is also a time in our life where we start to we're more susceptible to developing hypothyroidism, which also has an impact on our metabolism because the thyroid is the master controller of how many calories you burn in a day. It regulates the speed of your metabolism. So if it is suffering, if it's functioning suboptimally, you will have a slower metabolic rate. We also double whammy here when our metabolism typically slows down, and there's a couple of reasons why this happens. We also have a tendency to see a rise in ghrelin, which is a hunger hormone. And so a lot of women notice that they're hungry all the time as they move into their 40s, and it feels like it's sort of like this uncontrollable hunger. Another thing that happens is we start to develop more inflammation. This is just of aging. We're more susceptible to inflammation. Which also makes weight loss harder. And then finally, the last one is, and there's more changes than this, I'm just pointing out the top ones. The last one is sarcopenia, which again is just where we start to lose our muscle mass. It is a natural part of aging. And this is especially true if you are under eating protein and if you are sedentary, if you are not doing resistance training in particular, all of which affects our metabolism. And then finally, to add to this, every single woman in this group has her own unique metabolic identity, which basically just means that all of the choices that you've made in the past 10, 20, 30 years have had an impact on how your body and your physiology, how it functions today. Okay, so that's just the stage. And so when women join this group, a lot of women join this group because they are, maybe they're tired all the time. They've started gaining weight. They're going on diets. They're not losing weight. Their hormones are unbalanced. And their health they're starting to have like these health issues, and they don't know what to do. So a lot of you come to this group. And, I try and converse and get to know all my members as best as possible. And sometimes I'll be like, well, what do you want to work on? What's important to you? Why are you joining this group? Well, I want to balance my hormones. Okay. Which ones? And then it stops because women use this. I want to balance my hormones, but women don't actually know what they're talking about. They don't know which hormones they want to balance. Right. And I think that for a lot of them, they're very overwhelmed by everything. And part of it is, you come into this group, you start listening to some of my workshops, and you're just like, oh my God, I got to start thinking about my thyroid, my estrogen, and my insulin, and my cortisol, and all of these things, my gut health, my inflammation, my liver, like, oh my God, where do I even start? And so that is why I wanted to do this one. And a couple of weeks back, or maybe it was last week, I can't even remember anymore. About, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I talked to you guys about sort of like if you can imagine this jumble of everything going on as this ball of yarn that you're trying to untangle, you've got to find that loose end. And this is an analogy that I got from Dr. Kieran Dunstan, who I just thought it was the best analogy because it really kind of explains, I think, how women feel when they join this group, where it's like this big, massive ball of yarn and it's all bundled up and they just don't know where to start. So where do we start? So this is a concept that I have learned from one of my mentors, who is Dr. Jade Tita. He is a naturopathic doctor who specializes in the female metabolism, and I have studied under him. And the way that he explains it is he puts, and he's not the only one who does this. Dr. Anna Kabeka is another woman who does this, who puts hormones in a hierarchy, right? Of sort of like, there are certain hormones that have a bigger impact on our how we look and how we feel, and our health and our energy. And there are other hormones that have an impact, but just not as big. And so when we're trying to figure out like where do we start? Well, start at the base of the pyramid. Start by addressing the hormone that's going to give you the best bang for your buck. And that is insulin. Okay, that is, and I have been saying this for a long time. I had a roadmap to weight loss. That was one of my freebies that I gave out a while back, and all it talked about was insulin. This is sort of like the hormone that if you're like, oh my God, I don't even know where to start, Haley, just tell me one thing to do. Figure out your insulin levels, optimize your insulin levels. And that's what I'm going to teach you how to do today. And this is where the low carb nutrition comes into play. So if you think, I can't remember I have to remember where I'm going with this talk. Okay, so if you think of this pyramid, I want you to think that like insulin is kind of at the base, along with cortisol, I would argue. But today we're talking about insulin because insulin is probably the easiest one to target. Because it's really just about making certain changes to your nutrition. Like it's really easy. We have a lot of control. And then on top of that, we're going to have like the thyroid and adrenal function. And then at the tip of the pyramid would be like estrogen and progesterone and all these other little things like testosterone and human growth hormone and all these other hormones. But at the base is insulin. So what I want to talk about next is insulin resistance. And I won't go into a super long discussion of insulin resistance here, just very quickly. So insulin is a hormone that your body produces when you eat food, and that food gets digested and absorbed into your bloodstream. Some of it turns into glucose, which is sugar. And so the level of sugar in your bloodstream rises. Now, your body has to keep your blood sugars within a very specific range. If your blood sugars go over that range or drop under that range, it's dangerous to your body, and your body has these mechanisms in place to protect you. Insulin is one of them. So when your blood sugars go too high, your body produces insulin to drop your blood sugars down. And how it works is that hormone, insulin, it kind of like there are these receptor sites in these cells all over your body, and insulin goes into the receptor site and kind of like opens it up so that your body can suck the glucose into your cells. Okay. What happens is that eventually those cells are like, okay, we're full. Please stop eating carbohydrates, because carbohydrates are the food that tend to increase glucose the most. And so if we're eating too many carbs, or we're eating the wrong carbs, or we're just eating too much in general, because the other macronutrients also will increase blood sugar, these cells get like, they get full, and they're like, we don't want any more. We don't want any more. And so your body starts to basically ignore insulin. But again, your blood sugar levels are rising. Your body starts to freak out. It's trying to normalize things. So it produces more and more and more insulin, and you start to ignore it. And then we develop insulin resistance. So now you're in this state where you have elevated blood glucose levels, you have elevated insulin, and this is where it becomes really dangerous. And this is where we start to see low energy, we start to see weight gain, we start to see some serious conditions, inflammation, problems with your thyroid, changes to your sex hormones, type 2 diabetes, all these different things start to arrive, PCOS, right? So basically, as you can see, this hormone, when it goes out of balance, in the sense of your body's producing way more than it needs to, and it's resisting, it can have like a massive impact. So these are some of what I've put up here are some of the signs of insulin resistance. There are more than these, but I just wanted to give you a couple of things to look at. So abdominal obesity. So if you're gaining if your body shape is like you gain all of your weight on your belly and you have skinny legs, that is a good sign of insulin resistance. If you are constantly hungry and you're craving sugar and refined carbohydrates, insulin resistance. If you have hypoglycemia, like if your blood sugar levels are up and then they're down and then they're up and then they're down and you get hangry, it could be the beginning of insulin resistance. If you look at your latest labs that you did with your doctor, right? If you go and look at your labs, look at your fasting blood glucose or your fasting blood sugar and look at your A1C and look at the trend. That's the important thing, because if you get your blood test done every 2 years, and every 2 years you start to notice that your A1C and your fasting blood sugar are going up, 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 this is a sign that you are becoming more and more insulin resistant. Women who have PCOS, not always insulin resistance, but often. Skin tags, like those little, like when you have those little skin tags like around your neck, insulin resistance. High blood pressure, low energy. If you are tired all the time, this is like, if you want to have more energy, I am telling you, if you get rid of those carbs in your life, you are going to notice such a massive difference. And then fatty liver, this is sort of like further down the line, like sort of closer towards developing like prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. You might also end up with not a condition, but oh my gosh, I can't think of the word, but your doctor might tell you you've got fatty liver disease, like non-alcohol related fatty liver disease. Okay. So how do we improve it? So what I think, this is why I think nutrition is so powerful, and why I really want to make sure that every single woman in this group sees this as much as possible, is because when it comes to insulin resistance and all of the associated issues that come with insulin resistance, like type 2 diabetes, it's a lifestyle related condition, right? So you can prevent it and you can support it, or basically, and I'm not a doctor, so I'm not allowed to say that I'm going to fix your diabetes or fix your insulin resistance. But what I can say is that you can optimize your insulin by doing the right things with your nutrition and your lifestyle. And with a lot of my clients, I can tell you that they come to me and within 3-6 months, they are seeing massive changes in their insulin resistance. Just yesterday, one of my clients sent me a message and she was so excited. She's like, I've got to share this with you, Haley. And she was sharing with me that since working with me, her when she was diagnosed with diabetes, I can't remember how long ago, but anyways, type 2 diabetes is a terrible disease, and it really has such an impact on our body. And for example, her kidney function had gone down to 42%. It's now back up to 95%. Her A1C, which is basically like how much blood glucose you have in general, or sugar in your bloodstream in general, over a 3-month period, went from 11 down to 6.9. So when I say nutrition has a massive impact, it has a massive impact. And what you need to understand is that, again, there's 3 basic macronutrients, right? So carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Of those 3, the one that's gonna spike your insulin the most is gonna be carbohydrates, and especially the ones that are high in sugar or that are super refined, like white bread, white crackers, donuts, pastries, croissants. I know, all the good stuff, but those, okay, followed by protein to a certain extent, and then fat, okay? And you're going to see, as I explain this SMART Carb formula, a lot of women, what their diet currently looks like is it's high in carbs, it's too low in protein, and for a lot of women, it's too low in fat. And I'm going to reverse that. Okay. That's the smart carb formula. So what are the top things that we can do? So we can avoid sugar and we can refine carbohydrates. We can move towards a lower carb nutrition. Again, you don't have to go keto, but in my opinion, for women 35 plus, because we have this tendency towards insulin resistance, it makes sense to have a lower carb approach. We can add more fiber, and that kind of ties into the smart carb, which we're going to be talking about. Regular movement. Just walking will help to optimize your insulin levels. You don't even have to be doing like, you don't have to go to CrossFit. You don't have to do hardcore spin classes. Just get out for a walk, right? Every single day, 30 minutes, and then managing your stress, because stress in and of itself can can turn into insulin resistance. Just because stress, part of the stress hormones, part of their job is to raise glucose. And so it's kind of like the same as eating like a big bowl of ice cream. Maybe not exactly the same, but just to give you guys a little bit of a sense. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the smart carb formula. So basically, this is a formula that I use with my clients. I am not, so a lot of coaches will teach women how to track their calories and their macros, right? I am not that coach. I'm not that coach because I've tried to do it. And honestly, I last about 2 or 3 days and I'm like, who has time for this? And so I had to develop a different way of figuring out how to get women to get the right macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fats without having to count anything. And so what I use is I use visual, like a visual portion guide, and I use certain principles. Okay. So the smart carb formula, it follows certain principles. So number one is to eat moderate amounts of smart carbs per meal to minimize insulin production while optimizing your metabolism. Okay. So basically, when it comes to like elevating, I'm not against carbs. I'm not a hater on carbs. I think carbs are important. I think women need carbs, but I do believe that every single one of us has our own unique tolerance for carbohydrates, which is going to be based on our metabolic identity, right? What I was talking about at the beginning, like every single woman is unique, but you have to have a starting point, and it's probably not the standard American diet or the standard Canadian diet. Okay. So we've got to figure out what can we tolerate? What can your specific metabolism tolerate? Then we also need to make sure we're getting adequate protein to protect lean muscle mass and maintain a healthy metabolism. I'm not going to get into that in today's chat too much, but because I've got a lot of workshops about protein, but basically you need protein to protect your muscles. And you need your muscles to keep your metabolism running optimally amongst other things, okay? Then you also want to make sure that you're getting plenty of fiber from vegetables to slow down your digestion, to support your gut health, to support liver, and really to just keep you feeling full, because that's one of the benefits of fiber. And then finally, you want to complete all of your meals with healthy fats. Okay. And that is to, number one, the healthy part is to reduce inflammation. And we'll talk about that in a second, and making sure that you're getting enough calories. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more as we move into this, but this is a mistake that I see all the time, is that women, when the moment that they hear low carb, they kind of just take carbs out of their diet, but they never replace those carbs with anything else. And so what happens is that they accidentally suddenly find themselves eating between 1,000 and 1,200 calories a day. And I will explain why this is in about 10, 15 minutes here. Okay. All right. So like I said, I use a hand portion system that's super easy, so that my clients can visually just look at their plate and and be able to estimate, am I building my meal the way I should? And so this is super simple to remember. You guys can remember this. Your palm is protein, okay? This fist is vegetables. A cupped handful is your starchy carbs, and a thumb is fat, okay? Now I'm going to show you what this looks like when you kind of put this formula together. So how do you build your meals? So if you want to jump onto a lower carb approach and you're like, well, where do I begin? This is where you begin. It's if you can remember this and start building your meals this way, this is the way to do it. Okay, so every time you eat, every single meal, okay, you're going to focus on getting one serving, one palm of protein dense. So I'm going to ask you guys, what is a protein dense food? So you guys are commenting right now. Let's see what you guys are going to tell me. What is a protein dense food? You let me know. I'm going to give you guys a little second here because I know there's a little bit of a delay between me and you guys, but protein dense food. And I say protein dense. This is really important because I think this is where a lot of women tend to struggle here. But one serving of clean protein dense food, and I'm going to show you a list in a little bit here. And then 1 to 2 servings of low carb vegetables. So when I say low carb vegetables, like I separate sort of low carb vegetables from starch. So low carb vegetables is like your cucumber, your broccoli, your cauliflower, bok choy, eggplant, tomatoes, all of the greens, celery, like anything that's like a high water content vegetable is probably the best way to think of it. Anything that grows above ground is another good way to think of it, right? If it grows under the ground, is probably starchier. So you want 1 to 2 servings of that, and then you want 1 serving of smart carbs. Now, smart carbs, we call them smart because they are carbohydrates that are slower to digest and very rich in fiber and have less impact on our blood glucose. But we're still limiting it to 1 cupped handful per meal, okay? And then we also want to add in 4 to 6 servings of healthy fats. And we want herbs and spices for extra flavor, okay? Now, what I want to do is I want to show you guys some lists because you're probably like, okay, like Lula saying, okay, so protein dense food, beans. So no, Lula, not beans, actually. So when I am talking about, yes, beans are a source of protein, they are not what I call protein dense foods. So let me find my list and hopefully this is going to work. Okay, let's start with protein. Okay, let's see if you guys can see this. Hopefully this is working. All right. I'm just going to wait for 2 seconds until I see it pop up here. Lula says, oh man, I need help. Okay, it's okay, Lula. I've got like a little challenge coming up for you guys. So, okay, can you guys see? You know what? I'm going to go like this. Stop share. And then I'm going to go share. And then I'm going to go, where is it? Over here. Okay, that should work. Okay, so when I'm talking about protein dense foods, I'm basically talking about animal protein and a few plant-based sources. But really, so Lula had said, well, what about beans? The thing is that with beans, you're getting protein, but you're also getting carbs. And when I say that I want you to get a serving of protein, I want you to get 25 grams of protein per meal, specifically, palm of your hand, right? But if you have a palm of beans, you are not going to get 25 grams of protein because it is not a protein dense food. And if you guys take the challenge, which I'm going to tell you about after the end of this, it's a free challenge. We're going to dive into this more. But here's a list. This is the list I give to my clients: bacon, beef, bison, chicken, clams, crab, duck, egg whites, fish, lobster, mussels, lamb, protein powder, pork, oyster, shrimp, scallops, smoked salmon. Tempeh is probably your best plant-based version. These are all our proteins, okay? Palm of protein. And then smart carbs. This is where, so again, 1 cupped handful, it's not a massive amount of carbs. So this is all of your starchy tubers and your root vegetables, right? Like your beets, your carrots, your potatoes, plantains, squash, sweet potatoes, all fruit, higher carb dairy like yogurt, gluten-free grains like whole grains. I prefer gluten-free because I feel like gluten is a really common source of inflammation for women. And then beans and legumes. So for me, the beans and legumes fall into the carb category. Okay. So that's just a quick idea. Again, you guys can get these lists. Don't have to memorize them. And then the healthy fats parts. So a healthy fat. So when it comes to fat, super quickly, some fats are inflammatory. Some fats are anti-inflammatory. You guys want to make sure that you are avoiding the inflammatory fats, basically vegetable oils. Get them out of your life. The canola, the peanut oil, the seed oils, all of it's got to go, and you've got to replace it with anti-inflammatory fats, including saturated fats, which may go against what you've been taught previously, okay? But there are whole food fats like avocados and nut butters and nut cheese and nuts and olives and seeds. Then if you go into the oils and butter, avocado oil mayo, no more Hellmann's mayonnaise, ladies. It is made with canola oil, and that is inflammatory. Ghee, cacao butter, coconut milk, macadamia nut oil, MCT, which is a medium chain triglyceride. These are all the kinds of fats or healthy fats that I encourage my clients to eat. Okay. So coming back to my little presentation here, let me just stop, share, and then share my screen again. And we're going to go from current slide. Okay. So we're back here. So what I want you guys to think is like, when you look at your plate, okay? So when you're going to build a plate, if you want to follow this smart carb formula, it's super easy. You're going to cut your plate into 4 sections. 1/4 of your plate is your protein. 1/4 of your plate is your smart carbs. The other half of your plate is vegetables, low carb vegetables. And drizzled all over this is your healthy fats, okay? That's the hardest part for women to understand, is the healthy fat part. But for the first 3, it's super simple. You put your plate into 4, you've got protein in one little corner, you've got your smart carbs in the other, and you've got your vegetables below. And just remember, palm of protein, 2 fists of vegetables, 1 cupped handful of carbs. Okay, can you guys remember that? Pretty easy, right? It's a simple formula. And so just to give you a couple of examples, let's say you're making pork tenderloin. So you're going to have a palm-sized portion of pork tenderloin in one little section. And then let's say you want to have a few carbs. You're going to have a cupped handful of roasted potatoes. The rest of your plate could be, say, asparagus and broccoli or a side salad or whatever it is. But again, half of that plate is vegetables. And then you're using your healthy fats to cook with. Okay. Now that brings me to my next little point, which is the biggest mistake women make and how to avoid it. So the biggest mistake women make is they forget to add in the fat. Right? I kind of talked about this at the beginning, is that women are like, okay, low carb. I'm going to eliminate the carbs. I'm going to cut out the bread and the this and the that and the this and the that. But they don't replace those things with fat. And this is a super big mistake because of the way your metabolism works. I'm not going to dive too deep into this because I've done a lot of workshops on this, but basically, and like sort of just to give you like the brief overview, your metabolism is adaptive. It's gonna, and when I talk about metabolism, I'm talking about how many calories you're burning, okay? And so it fluctuates on a daily basis based on what you're doing. It can upregulate, so your metabolism can go higher. It can downregulate, your metabolism can slow down. Women who go on low calorie diets will downregulate their metabolism over time. Your metabolism does not like to be in a caloric deficit. It doesn't like to be there. And so if you're thinking of this from a weight loss perspective, you'll get better results in the long run if you focus on controlling your hormones as opposed to trying to cut your calories. Okay. I'm going to leave it at that for now, because I could go on and on and on and on about this. But what I just want to make sure you guys are understanding is that when you take the carbs out of your diet, you need to replace those calories with something else. And fat is going to be your new best friend. It's going to give you more stable energy. Like I've talked about, like insulin is having an impact on our energy. When we have less carbs and we have more fat, we have nice, stable energy levels. I'm 47. I have a 5-year-old. I'm never tired. I always feel great. Okay. I don't have the mid-afternoon slump. So, energy, but also satiety and having control over cravings and having control over our appetite. This is the beauty of fat. Okay. For me, this is the main reason that I continue to do this approach. Well, two. Number one is my energy levels. Like I don't want to go back ever to how I felt before I made a transition into low carb, healthy fats. Like I feel great now. Number two, and this is the last point, is that fat is delicious. It is delicious and it makes food delicious, right? And ultimately, I think that one of the ways that women are going to stay on track with their nutrition is if it tastes good. If you go on a diet and you have to get rid of all these things and you feel deprived, you're not going to stick to the diet. Fat tastes good. So don't be afraid of it. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about this little challenge that I've put together, and then I'll open it up for questions and I'll see what you guys have been posting. Okay, so essentially, again, because so many of the women were coming into the group and I don't even know where to start, and potentially never coming back because they're like, oh my God, like this is great, but I don't even know what to do with all this information. I wanted to create something to give you guys something to work on. Okay. And so I'm calling it my 7-day lower carb challenge. And so what it's going to be, it's basically like a little mini course, and it's a little email sequence. So every day you're going to get like a little video lesson, similar to what we've talked about today, but diving a little bit more, especially into the macros, like the protein, the carbs, the fats, how to figure out how many calories you need to be eating, some bonus lessons on other ways that you can optimize your insulin. So intermittent fasting, sleep, what kind of exercise you should be doing. So little lessons like that you can start to kind of pull these pieces together and have something to work on. Okay. And then of course a 7-day meal plan. So basically, I think when it comes to doing this for a lot of women, it's like, I just don't know where to get started. And what I do with my clients inside my program at the beginning, I'm like, I don't want you to worry about anything. Just follow my recipes. I have designed them with this formula in mind. Now in the program, I have 2 formulas. I have a low carb formula and a smart carb formula. I'm going to give you guys the smart carb formula in this one, right? So what you can expect is about 100 grams of carbs a day, about 100 grams of protein a day. And with your fat, I'm going to teach you how to use fat as a lever inside the course, because in my opinion, we kind of want to figure out our protein. Like protein is if you're going to focus on one thing, focus on protein. Then you got to figure out your carb piece, and the rest of the calories come from fat. Okay. And so I'll teach you how to basically use fat as a lever so that you can kind of play around. Now it depends like what your goal is. Is your goal like to maintain your weight, but have better energy? Then you can eat more. If you have a weight loss goal, then yeah, you probably have to cut out some of the fat, but not too much fat. Okay. So I will be teaching you all of that inside. This is, I'm almost done. All I have left to do is record the videos. So this will be ready for you ladies next week. And if you want to get the link to join, then just put challenge in the comments, and I'll take note of who to reach out to so that you can get in on this little low carb challenge. You'll be able to do it whenever you want. It's just going to exist. I'm going to make sure that any new woman that joins this membership or this little community is aware of it and has something to work on. As you know, if you're just like, again, where do I get started, Haley? What I want you to do is take this, right? Take the challenge so that you can learn a little bit about the Smart Carb formula, and then go one macro at a time. Protein, let's dial in protein. Okay, let's dial in carbs. Okay, let's dial in fat. Okay, now that I've got that and I feel pretty good, okay, now I'm going to start dialing in intermittent fasting. Okay, that's going really well. Okay, now I'm going to get into the habit of walking every single day. Don't try to do it all at once. Even though I know we're a society of instant gratification and we want results and we want them now, but I think women have to understand is that you need to take time. You're trying to change your habits. You're trying to change how you eat and how you live. It takes time. And the more you try to change at the same time, the harder it's going to be to sustain. So just be patient, okay? All right, so I wanted to show you guys a couple of the women in my program because I want you to see the impact that a low carb approach can have. So this woman here, when she came to see me, she had hypothyroidism. She still does it. I can't cure hypothyroidism, but she was struggling with hypothyroidism, adrenal fatigue, a lot of inflammation. And within like 3 months of working with me, so much of that has changed. Her body composition has changed. Her face, like I'm not showing her face because I keep my clients anonymous, but if you could see her face, like her face went from inflamed to like just completely different. This is the power of nutrition. This is another woman who came to me. Her doctor just told her, you're pre-diabetic. You need to get your shit together, basically. And so she decided to invest and work with me. Lost like 30 pounds, you know, and keep in mind, like 30 pounds is not normal. Or not normal. It's not what most of my clients see. Women who have more weight to lose have a tendency to lose it faster. And her doctor, when she went to see her doctor, was just like, just keep doing what you're doing. It's like your blood work is changing. This is amazing. Keep going. This is another woman who came to me, and for her, it was really more about like weight loss, like belly fat specifically, which was what she wanted to target. And she came to me with eating a lot of sugar and a lot of refined carbs, and we switched her over to a lower carb approach. And you guys can see this is 3 months. You can have a massive impact. And it's not just about weight. You know, I talk a lot about weight because most women come to me for weight loss, but this is about your health as well. Like I said, the woman who came to see me or you know, told me yesterday about all of the blood work that she just got. That's my biggest joy, is when my clients come to me with that, because I know I'm adding years to their life. And that is just so rewarding for me. So, okay, questions. Let's see what you guys have. All right. I'm going all the way back to the top here. And so Cassie said, me every day, I notice I have low energy, and that has been happening for more than 2 years. I'm telling you, Cassie, stick with me, stick with your low carb nutrition. You're going to see such a massive change to your energy levels. Cholesterol is up a little too. So cholesterol, that's like, it's a totally different, that's from Lula, totally different topic. Insulin certainly has an impact on cholesterol, and when you, and your blood pressure and your triglycerides, right? So all of these factors that are associated with cardiovascular disease, a lot of them associated with insulin resistance. And a lot of times when women switch to a lower carb approach, they will notice an improvement in their cholesterol markers. So not necessarily that cholesterol goes down, but HDL, which is your good cholesterol, typically goes up, and triglycerides come down. And it's the ratio of cholesterol to triglycerides that is a really big determining factor of cardiovascular risk. So that's super cool. So could work for you, Lula. And yes, stress is certainly impactful on insulin resistance. And then Cassie said, for the last week, I've noticed a big change following this process and it works. So happy for you, Cassie. Cassie's doing a little black dress with me right now, which is also lower carb. It's not keto, it's lower carb. So she's learning how to implement this smart carb formula. Let's see here. Okay, just coming down. So will this fix my acid and anxiety too? Okay, so acid, I'm assuming you're meaning acid reflux. I would say that when it comes to acid reflux, a lot of my clients who come to me with acid reflux will report that within the first 30 days, they barely have any issues anymore. But I also eliminate a lot of inflammatory foods in my the first month. I have a very specific protocol. So it's probably a combination of the lower carb and getting rid of some of those inflammatory foods that helps. As for anxiety, can it help with anxiety? You know, potentially. I'm a very anxious person too, Lula. And I will definitely notice like anxiety when my progesterone levels are off. So anxiety and progesterone is probably the hormone that is kind of tied into anxiety. I would say to you, why are you resistant to hormone therapy? And so maybe just reach out to me and we can have a conversation on that, because I have my thoughts when it comes to hormone replacement therapy, and I'm happy to share them with you if you're interested. And Lula says, yes, overwhelmed. Okay. So again, ladies, I want you to try this little challenge so that it gives you something to focus on. That's why I created it, because I know that coming into this group, there's a lot of information and you're like, wow, I don't even know where to start. So start there. Okay. Let's see. So everyone's saying challenge. Woohoo. Okay. As far as drinks, what do you drink? So personally, what I drink is a lot of water. And I'll have, I'll usually have like a cup, maybe 2 cups of decaf coffee in the morning. And then basically water, more water. Almond milk, like unsweetened almond milks or nut milks. I'll use that. What else? I will do sometimes those fizzy, like the bubbly, whatever those ones. I'll do those. If I feel like I want something a little sweet, I might put a little bit of liquid stevia, but I try not to overconsume even the liquid stevia. What else do I drink? Red wine sometimes. I love red wine. What else do I drink? I'm trying to think. Oh, I do a lot of, I make my own like lemonade. So I'll take like fresh lemon juice, and I'll just squeeze fresh lemon juice into water, and I'll add a little bit of salt and again, a little bit of stevia just to have a little bit of a sweet taste. So I'll do that quite often. Electrolytes, like I'll buy like the electrolyte powders. Usually the ones that are again sweetened with stevia. Like I try not to have flavored water all the time. I try to just stick with regular water, but sometimes if I'm finding that I'm resisting drinking water, I'll put a little flavor in it. Okay, Joanne said MCT oil is a healthy fat. Is it a good choice? Yes, it is, Joanne. I love MCT oil. One of the cool things about MCT oil is that it bypasses the liver. Most food and fat has to go via the liver before we can actually start to utilize it, but MCT oil bypasses it. So it's like kind of instant energy. It's one of the reasons it's really popular in the keto world, because it helps, like it gives you like, it's instant fuel for your body and your brain. And so it can be a really great addition. Note to self, It can also cause diarrhea, especially if you're not used to MCT oil. So I always recommend starting slowly, like having like a half a teaspoon. And if your body responds properly, or you don't have diarrhea, then you can go up and slowly increase from there. But yes, absolutely, it's a good choice. And Lula says, my husband puts it in his coffee. Yep, that's Bulletproof Coffee, really popular. It was Bulletproof Coffee is basically where you put MCT oil and usually unsalted butter into your coffee, and you put it in a blender. It's called a Bulletproof Coffee. It was basically popularized by Dave Asprey, and it's very tasty. I personally think that women do better off with a nutrient-dense breakfast, but that's just me. Let's see. Hit water unless I add flavor. Yeah, you know, Cassie, I know the whole water without the flavor, honestly, you'll get used to it. The reason I try to avoid the sweetened stuff all the time is that when you give your body sweet things that have 0 calories, like any kind of diet product, you're kind of tricking your body, right? Like you're saying to your body, hey body, here's something sweet, get ready for it. Here comes some calories. And then your body doesn't get them. And it's like, excuse me, where's the energy? And for some women, it can drive more cravings for sweetness. So that's why I try to avoid it. And what is MCT again? So MCT is medium chain triglyceride oil. So typically you'll find it pretty much at any grocery store, but typically it's going to be stored in the refrigerator, in like near the butter, in a dark jar or a dark plastic. Nutiva is one of the brands that does it. You can also order it online. Just go onto Amazon and put in medium chain triglyceride, and you'll find that there. So I think that's about it. Any other questions before I let you guys go? If you guys like this one, if this was really good and it helped you and it kind of gives you like a starting point, I would love for you to give me a heart in the comments so that I know. And then, you know, what do you want me to, like, I'll do my workshops on anything, right? Like I will do them on anything. So if you tell me like, Haley, can you just teach us how to do this one small thing? Just put it in the comments and I will do that for you. You know, like, do you want to learn how to build like protein shakes? Do you want to learn how to, like, what do you want to learn? Like, try and keep it simple. Like, think of like, what is one little thing that I can teach you that will give you something to focus on? And just put that in the comments so that I can help you, because ultimately, you know, every Friday I come on and really it's to give you guys the tools to look and feel your best, because I know the power of nutrition. I know the power of lifestyle. And I think that's about it for today. Thank you, ladies, for joining me and asking questions and participating. It was so awesome to see all of your comments today. And next week, I'm going to dive into self-sabotage. Okay, we're going to kind of leave nutrition for a little second, and we're going to work a little bit on mindset, because it is one of the pillars to changing your habits for whatever reason you want to change them, whether it is for energy or for weight loss or for health. Mindset plays a huge role. So we're going to dive into that next week. Thank you so much, ladies. Have a wonderful weekend. And I will see you all here next week. And I will get in touch on how to join that challenge. Bye.